Kathleen Penner, owner of Plenty of Sunshine Travel, and today I'm joined by Kim from Viking Cruises. I have met with Kim 3 other times before, episodes 2, 14, and 26, if you want to go back and look at those, but do come back to this one because we're going to be covering Russia, and it's just an amazing itinerary, and I want you to be able to watch it and learn about it, and I'm excited about learning about it. So over to you.
Well, thank you, Kathleen. Thank you so much. I'm very, very excited to be sharing this destination with you. It's a place that I'm super passionate about. I was introduced to it probably about 10 years ago and completely fell in love with it. I'd had a taste of Russia before when I had gone in by ocean ship, and I had a little taste of St. Petersburg. But as we were talking about a little bit earlier, like I said, I sometimes feel like when I go on an ocean ship, it's like going to the chocolate shop and standing outside and looking at all the chocolates. And thinking, oh, I'd love to be able to try that. But when you go on a river cruise, you get to go inside and try all of the chocolates. It's kind of like that sort of taste of the buffet versus sitting down to the full meal. And that's what I loved about this, was that opportunity to really dig a little bit deeper, to be fully immersed in the people and the culture and the history, and get a much better sense of the country overall. So I'm going to turn my camera off, and I'm going to take you through this beautiful itinerary and give you a sense of what this country has to offer you as a traveler. So get started. So I want to just give you a touch of information about Viking, because what's really important about this particular destination is this is where we started. Viking is a small ship company. We have a large fleet of ships that include river ships, ocean ships, and we have 2 expedition ships being delivered towards the end of this year, and a Mississippi ship coming in 2022. But our roots are in Russia. We started there almost 24 years ago, and we have expanded our fleet from there. We have 5 ships in Russia, and that's where the company started, as I mentioned. Our owner had been involved in the cruise industry for over 25 years as one of the principal owners along with some other partners of Royal Viking Line, which was the first of the luxury ocean cruise companies. In the early 1990s, he and his partners sold that company, and he was doing some work in Russia, doing some consulting work in the shipping industry. His daughter had been going to university in St. Petersburg, and she had wanted to do a graduation trip with her mom and her grandmother when she graduated from university, and they did that. She came back and she said, you know what, Dad, this is one of the most amazing trips, and I think that we should be introducing people in North America to this incredible country. And he had some investments there that he couldn't take out of the country, and so he invested in 6 or 5 river ships in Russia, and that's where the company was founded. We started out and we've expanded into Europe and around the world since then. Our ships are unique in that they're small and intimate and able to dock right in the heart of the destination, and it allows you more time in that port of call and less time getting there. You'll also find that we've invested in green technology with hybrid engines, solar panels on many of our vessels, and that allows us to reduce our carbon footprint as well. But one of the key differences, if you're looking at Russia in particular and throughout the world, is that we own and operate. In Russia, that's a big difference. Most of our competitors sort of come in and go out depending on what's going on in the world. Viking has stayed invested in Russia, and we've been there for the full 24 years. We own our ships, which gives us access, more priority access, and our relationships and access to tours and experiences are much deeper than with competitors as well. And in addition to that, all of our crew is employed by Viking, and they have been with us, many of them, since the beginning. So it's very much a family experience when you travel with us in Russia. So here is where we're going to be traveling. You can see this is the world of Viking on the rivers. We've talked about Egypt in past trips. We've talked about river cruising in general. And most of the time, we're talking about the central part of Europe and France and Portugal. But this is to be traveling today in the northern part of the northwest part of Russia. Now, Russia is an interesting country because it's the only country in the world where both the sun comes up and the sun sets in the same country. It's massive. Yeah, did you know that?
I did not. That's a neat fact. Yeah.
trivia. Yeah, I know. That's one of the pieces of trivia I learned when I was on this trip. And
Mhm.
think about it, it borders on Asia and it also borders on Europe. So it's a very fascinating country. It's the largest country in the world. I think it's the second largest country in the world by land mass, the first being Canada.
Mhm.
But it is massive, and one of the coldest capitals in the world is Moscow after Ottawa. Did you know that? Ottawa is the coldest capital in the world.
Oh, wow. You're
I
full of
learned that
great
when I
trivia
lived
today.
there.
That's awesome.
I know, I learned that when I was living there. So take a look at this beautiful itinerary. Waterways of the Czars, and it's a fantastic itinerary that travels between Moscow and St. Petersburg. It doesn't matter which direction you go. It's still an amazing trip. I like to start in Moscow and travel towards St. Petersburg because St. Petersburg, in my opinion, is like the jewel in the crown. It's the big wow at the end of the trip. Moscow is impressive.
Mhm.
Really surprised me. It wasn't what I expected. It was much more beautiful. But St. Petersburg truly is the wow at the end. So you can go either direction. It really
Mhm.
doesn't matter from a cruise point of view. But if you really want that bang at the back end, then start in Moscow and travel to the north.
And
13
then you can also extend your stay when you're there too, so that you can explore St. Petersburg a little bit more, which is a great way to do it.
Yeah, it is. And it is a city that has lots and lots of things to see. We
Mhm.
spent 3.5 days there, but you could definitely spend a week or more just in St. Petersburg. There is so much to see, as you'll see as we go through.
Mhm.
I wanted to start with just a little video from our owner's daughter, Karina Hagen, who you see on many of our commercials. She went to university here. She was very instrumental in convincing her dad that this was a great idea to start the company in Russia. And she's very passionate, and she has a lot of personal friends and a lot of personal connections that she brings to the table and allows our guests to enjoy as well. Some of them invite them into their personal homes, and others give us back behind the scenes experiences at the Hermitage, for example. So let's take a look at what makes her so passionate about this amazing trip, and then we'll come back and go through the itinerary.
My love affair with Russia started when I was 16 years old. I spent a summer in St. Petersburg, which was then called Leningrad, and fell in love with this country and its people. I've spent most of my adult life in Russia, and it never stops entertaining and educating and fascinating me. It's a feast for the eyes. It's so colorful, more beautiful than any painting, with some of the most beautiful nature in the world. When people ask me what is it about Russia that I love so much, I think I have to say it's the people. It's remarkable how friendly the people are and how you can communicate with them even if you don't speak their language. It's charming and it's real. And this is the Russia that we love sharing with our guests. Anyone can show you the sort of more touristic side of Russia, but at Viking we pride ourselves on being able to go beyond that, with the opportunity to have real contact with its people, with its food, with its culture. It makes it many times richer. It's a wonderful experience, and it's a great privilege to share my Russia.
Добро пожаловать в наш любимый город Санкт-Петербург. Браво!
Добро пожаловать. Welcome to the real Russia.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that. It gives you a little taste of what we're going to experience when we go through Russia. So here is our itinerary. We're going to start off in Moscow. We're going to spend 3.5 days there. And then we'll be traveling through the rural part of Russia, visiting some of the smaller villages and cities, and joining in and wrapping up in St. Petersburg with another 3.5 days. So here you can see we'll be visiting these very cosmopolitan cities. They'll be busy while we're there. And then we have a much more leisurely trip as we travel through the rural part of Russia, visiting some of the smaller towns, the Golden Ring cities in the southern part of the Volga River as well. And what I like most about this itinerary is that it does give you that balance. It's super busy in St. Petersburg and Moscow, and then we travel through the rural part of Russia on a much more leisurely pace. So we'll be doing tours in the morning or the afternoon and cruising through the other part of the day. So you get that nice kind of rest. I find that sometimes we were talking earlier, Kathleen and I, that you get on a vacation and you get exhausted because you're going every single day. There's so much you can do, but sometimes it's nice to have that little downtime, and that's one of the things I love the most about this experience. So we're going to start off in Russia. A lot of people ask me about the weather, and so I thought I would just address that really very quickly. We start off in May with these itineraries, and we run through October. So in the early season, it can be a little bit cool, simply because we are up in the northern part of Europe. So it's kind of like Alaska in a lot of ways. So it's a little bit cooler, but you do get those beautiful long days. Remember, this is the land of the white nights where the sun doesn't set. And I traveled here in August, and the sun would set about 12:30, and it would be coming back up at about 3 in the morning. And that was in August. The weather was beautiful, the sun was out, but I want you to be aware that in St. Petersburg, it rains 300 days of the year. And so you have to be prepared when you go for a variety of different weather experiences. So make sure that you pack layers and a good raincoat and good walking shoes, because you're going to need them. But May and June are especially nice in St. Petersburg because that is the time of the White Nights Festival, which is a music and arts festival that takes place between June and early July. So you can do a little research on that if you like. There's festivals that run throughout the city pretty much all night. But we're going to start off in Moscow, and when we arrive, you're going to be transferring directly to your ship. The airports, there are 2 airports in Moscow, and I just want to warn you that the traffic in Moscow and St. Petersburg on the surface roads is insane. And it can take sometimes up to 2 hours to get from the airport to where the ship is, simply because of surface traffic. It's not that it's that far away, it just is a lot of people traveling by car. So be prepared for a little bit maybe of a longer trip from the airport. But once you're there, you'll be able to relax on board the ship. We dock in the city of Moscow, not in the right in the heart that you're looking at here, because the rivers aren't deep enough, but we are within about a half-hour transfer from where we dock to the center of Moscow at Red Square. And there is a subway line that runs. I took it. It was quite an adventure. I'll share that with you in a minute. It is about 5 stops, so it's not difficult to get around, but it is sometimes much easier to travel by metro than it is by surface road, although we do have that transfer going back and forth. So you'll be able to relax, you'll be able to enjoy the ship and kind of catch up. And what I love also about this particular itinerary is that we don't start our tour the next day until noon. So it gives you time to kind of catch up and maybe relax a little bit and rest from the trip getting there. And that is one of the big advantages. If you travel and start off in St. Petersburg, you're starting early in the morning on your first tour to the Hermitage, which is because we want to get in before the crowds. Whereas with this, it's a lot more relaxing, and you get that chance to sleep in a little bit before you start your tours. So we are going to be starting the next day. You'll have the morning to relax, and then we're going to be starting in the afternoon. But I wanted to give you a little bit of background about Moscow itself. Moscow is the largest city in Europe, and it's home to more billionaires than anywhere else in the world, and that came through the 1990s. The city itself was founded in 1150, and it was the capital of Russia until 1700s, when Peter the Great moved his capital to St. Petersburg. He felt like he needed to have more contact. He wasn't getting taken seriously by the other monarchs in Europe. It was creating trade issues, and he really wanted, plus he was finding that he was constantly battling to maintain his place on the Baltic Sea, which was his exit into Western Europe from the Scandinavians, who were constantly trying to take over that particular piece of land. And so he moved the capital to St. Petersburg, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that when we get there. But Moscow, after the Russian Revolution in 1918, once again became the capital. It now has 2,500 historic and architectural monuments. It has 70 museums, 50 theaters, 4,500 libraries, and 440 colleges. It remains one of the major cultural and economic metropolis in the country. And on top of that, it was beautiful. I honestly have to tell you that I was not expecting it to be a beautiful city. I had lived and traveled through Eastern Europe, and the communist era buildings were very unattractive. They were very blocky. They were very austere. But what I learned is that Stalin was an amateur architect. And what I also didn't realize is that Moscow was the jewel in the crown of the uh, communist ideal. He wanted to present this as utopia. And so when he built with beautiful embellishments and beautiful buildings. You will see even on block apartments, lovely outside embellishments on the balconies, on the corners of the buildings. It really is a beautiful city, and particularly at night. So you will get a chance to see that. So we will be starting off with a chance to see the metro. And the metro is really amazing. It was constructed in 1932, and you'll actually get to ride with the guide a couple of stations, so you'll get a sense of what it's all about. Today, the metro is huge. It has elegant stations that are a variety of art and sculpture. So if you've been to Paris, and you've been into the Paris metro, you know when you get to the Louvre and some of those stations, they're beautifully decorated to represent the area that you're traveling through. But take that particular Louvre station and put it on all the stations in the metro in Russia. It is magnificent and gorgeous. So it's really, really fun to go down. It's got art, it's got sculpture, beautiful embellishments. And again, it was something that was built during the Stalin period. It's more than 180 miles long, and it carries 7 million people per day. And one of the stops, the Park Pobedi station, also has the longest escalator in Europe that goes down 276 feet. And it's quite something to go on. I have to say, it's very steep and it goes down. It's quite something. Also, don't forget to search for the guard dog in one of the stations, and if you rub his nose, it'll bring you good luck. From there, we're going to be we'll be in our coach. And actually, our first stop is usually Red Square, because the guides will stop here. This is where there's an ATM so that you can get some rubles. It's all ready to have rubles in your pocket, because it's what you use for for shopping and negotiating. It just works a little bit better. So we will be driving past on part of the tour the Bolshoi Theater, which is the oldest and the most famous ballet school in the world. And we'll also visit Red Square. Now, the history here dates back to the 15th century, and it was originally known as the Torg, which was Slavic for marketplace. The Red Square is considered the center of Moscow, and all of the roads that go out into the rest of the country emanate from this square. All the major ways come from here. So this is the center of the universe, so to speak, in Russia. In the 16th century, it became a place for state ceremonies, and they've been held here ever since. So next to the Kremlin, you can see the wall of the Kremlin on the left hand or on the right hand side of that photograph, the wall. And you've also got St. Basil's Cathedral that you see right in the front. It looks like a gingerbread house. I love it. The colors are so beautiful.
Yeah, and that's gorgeous.
Isn't it gorgeous? I know. Yeah. It's got a really fun history. It was actually built by Ivan the Terrible, and he had it built in 1551 to celebrate the capture of Kazan and Astrakhan. And according to the legend, the builder was blinded after he completed it. So another structure as beautiful as this could never be built. They were a little bit vicious, the Russians. The Russian history is all about people essentially murdering each other to take over. So colorful history that I highly recommend you read if you want to. Also found here is Lennon's tomb, where his preserved body has been on display since his death in 1924. So we'll have a chance to see a lot of this on the city tour, and then you'll have some free time in the area. So you might want to visit the Gum department store that you see there. That's also on Red Square. It's one of the most beautiful buildings on the outside, but look how gorgeous it is on the inside with that glass dome. And honestly, this is one of the most famous department stores in Russia. It's also probably one of the most expensive places I've ever been. It's filled with designer stores, and and you're going to see people dressed in couture here. There's no shortage of money in Moscow, and you're going to see the beautiful women walking around on 6-inch high heels on the cobblestones. I mean, they are beautifully turned out, and it's a very wealthy city. So you'll get here. You might want to do a little bit of shopping. I know we bought a pair of socks here that were extremely expensive, but my husband needed them, so there was no way around it. On the other side of the photograph here, you will see the Cathedral of Christ the Savior. It's the oldest, it's the highest Orthodox church in the world, and it's the seat of the Orthodox religion, or the Russian Orthodox religion. It also has an interesting history because it was originally built in the 1880s. In 1931, Stalin blew it up because he wanted to build his government palace, and then he ran out of money during World War II after the siege. And then during Khrushchev's time in the 60s, he took that giant hole where they had blown up this church and turned it into the largest outdoor swimming pool in the world. And then finally in 1994, this cathedral was rebuilt. So it's very beautiful inside. You do have to have covering. You can't go in shorts. You do have to have, I always say to ladies, bring a scarf that you can wrap over your shoulders or around your knees or over your head. But it is really beautiful inside. I know my husband couldn't go in because he had shorts on and he had to stand outside, but I did get to go in. It was beautiful inside. So you can do that. Also,
do you have to cover your head completely to get into that chapel, or is it more just being modest and no skin really showing?
I think it's more just keeping your shoulders covered and your knees.
Okay.
It's more the knees because his shorts were just above the knee. He wasn't able to go in, and they were very strict about it. I had pants on, I think, that day, or a long skirt. So I usually travel with like a long, like a sundress or a skirt that is below the knee, just to be on the safe side, and t-shirts. And I always bring a pashmina so that I can wrap it if I need to. So I always just recommend to ladies, just, dress modestly when you're going into these options. But we didn't know to that church, so that's why we weren't totally prepared, or he wasn't totally prepared. But it was beautiful inside, I can tell you that. And so the visit. Now, the next day is kind of a free day, so you can go and explore a number of optional tours that we have. You might want to go back to Red Square as we did, and you can go in and see Lennon's tomb. You can go and just enjoy lunch and do a little bit more walking as we did. We had lunch, and we decided we had to have vodka and caviar and enjoy a Russian lunch, which we really did. We got lost on the metro, which was a great adventure. But in hindsight, what I would recommend is do one of the optional tours, because I actually kind of regret that I didn't go to the Cosmonaut Museum, which was one of the optional tours available, which really explores the space race from the Russian point of view, the Sputnik and all of that. So if you're interested, it's a really fantastic option for those who would like to see that. You can also go to the Tretyakov gallery that you see there with the beautiful art. This is the largest art museum, and it dates back to 1556 when Pavel Tretyakov began his art collection. It's very eclectic. It ranges from the 18th century to contemporary pieces. So if you're interested in that, it's really breathtaking. In addition to that, there's a Moscow Jewish Museum tour if you would like. Now, one of the other things that we do the day before, after our tour, is we take you to a Russian folkloric orchestra performance, which was one of the highlights of my stay in Russia. It is, if you can imagine a true symphony orchestra, all dressed in the beautiful tuxedos and the black dresses, but instead of playing the cello and the violin and the flute, they're playing the balalaika and the panpipe and the saw, and it's raucous and fun and absolutely amazing and engaging. So that's an exclusive for our Viking guests, and it was one of those highlights for me of this particular experience. So it's free. You can go and explore a little bit on your own. One of the things I do recommend is, if you've got the time, is to do the Moscow by Night tour. This was a highlight again because Moscow comes alive at night. There's a wonderful little video if you want to see it on our website. Kathleen, you might want to share the link with this that takes you on this tour with Karina, and it is beautiful. This picture is probably taken about 10:30 at night, because during the summer months it doesn't get dark until later, and everything comes alive. You can see the cathedral that we were talking about. The Kremlin is just beside it. You see Red Square. St. Basil's Cathedral lit up is absolutely beautiful. So I highly recommend this tour if you haven't, if you want to see Moscow and really get a sense of how beautiful it is. It really does come alive at night. And then the next day, we're going to visit the Kremlin. We're sailing in the afternoon, so it's a morning tour. But you have two options. You can do the included, or you can do the Kremlin and the Armories tour. Now, that's the one I did because I was really interested in going into the Armories. It was an extra cost, but it was well worth it, because the Kremlin Armories is where all the artifacts, the golden carriages that belong to Catherine, the Fabergé eggs, the crowns are all in the Armories. And if you would like to see those, there is an extra charge because only a small number of people can go in. It also only has stairs. So if you're not super mobile, you're going to find that a little bit of a challenge. There is no elevator in that particular part of the Kremlin museum, but it is breathtaking. So you'll see the double throne used by Peter the Great and his brother Ivan. You will see the golden carriages that belong to Catherine, as well as the Kazan crown that's filled with pearls and garnets and turquoise. It was breathtaking. But you'll get a chance to see the Kremlin. And the Kremlin was built in the 14th century. It was a fortified complex. It was really the old town that was in the heart of Moscow. It looks over the Moskova River that you can see in front of you. And it also is bordered by Red Square on one side, and the Alexander Garden to the west, as well as that cathedral is nearby. It was the winter palace of the Tsars, and it's surrounded by 19th, 18th century towers. There are 5 palaces inside. There are 4 cathedrals, one for each purpose. Like they use them for, gone out of my head, weddings, funerals, baptisms, and crownings, convocation type of things, so coronations. So those, plus it's the residence of the current president and the center of the Russian government. So really a beautiful, beautiful trip through here. And there's a fair amount of walking, but it's beautiful inside. And then we'll start to sail in the afternoon, and you'll have kind of a relaxing afternoon as we start to sail. You'll get to know the ship, etc. The next day we're going to visit Ooglitch, which is one of my favorite little villages that we visit. It's one of the Golden Ring cities situated in the southeastern part of Russia, of this part of Russia, along the Volga River. It's actually the remnants, the town itself is remnants of a 10th century settlement that was first recorded back in 1148, and has an interesting history because after Ivan the Terrible's death in 1584, and remember, Ivan the Terrible was the last of the Viking Tsars. The Vikings came in and kind of created peace and prosperity in Russia amongst kind of a lot of warring tribes. And Ivan was the last of the, over 700 years they were in rule, and he was the last of the Viking descendants who ruled Russia. He was actually murdered by one of his rivals, and he sent his family into hiding, and they left Kiev and they came here to Ooglitch, trying to hide because his son Dmitri was just a little boy. He was the last of the bloodline, and he was murdered along with his mother and the rest of the family 7 years later. And it was probably on the order of the boyar Boris Godunov, who was looking to take power. And it created such an uproar that it actually led to a renaissance and a revolution in the 17th and 18th, caused a great deal of destruction. So where he found the little boy is where they built that church, the Church of St. Dimitri on the Blood. And you can actually, you can go in and see inside the church is really quite beautiful. Also, this is where you can see Babushka Nadia. This is where we have a home visit, and she's one of our host families. And our guests are going to have a chance to peek inside people's homes, which is one of my favorite things to do, and get a chat with the locals. I love this. There's a really great video on the website as well if you want to see this. I didn't want to take the time today, but I thought your guests can go back, or you can share the links here to the videos for Russia, and there's a lot of really great little insights here. But it's great fun because you can ask them questions, you can see, you can try some of the local cuisine, and of course many of them have a still behind their house, and they make very strong vodka, and it's great to toast and drink the vodka with her. So we have 6 different families, and it's really a great insight. Also, there is a musical performance here, And it's also on your way back to the ship. There's a great market, and this is a perfect place to do souvenir shopping. I did picked up a lot of great gifts for family and friends, Fabergé pendants, earrings, and all kinds of stuff. And the prices were really, really good here. And you can use Visa, you can use rubles, you can use small denomination American dollars too. But I didn't bother to convert to American dollars as a Canadian. I just converted to rubles, and that worked really well. I could use my my Visa card, but it worked really well. And so make sure you save yourself some time, because it's on the way back to the ship, and you don't want to short yourself because there's a lot of really cool stuff there.
That's great.
Yeah, and then onward to Yaroslavl. And Yaroslavl is, again, one of the Golden Ring cities. Now, the Golden Ring cities they figure prominently in the formation of the Russian Orthodox Church, and they're considered to be among some of the most picturesque in Russia. It was founded in the 11th century by Prince Yaroslavl, they say, on the spot where he killed a bear. And so you'll find the bear motif as a mascot throughout the city. But it's known for some of these beautiful churches. Here you can see Church of the Elijah the Prophet. They're all being restored. All of these were closed during the Russian Revolution, or during the Russian communist era, and Russian religion is still discouraged. Communism is the religion, or was the religion, during the communist era. So these were used as armories, they were used as grain elevators, and now they're being restored, and they've been able to find and restore a lot of the beautiful icons inside the churches. So you'll get a chance here to see. Also, you got a chance to explore one of the local markets, the food and souvenir market, as well as we stop at the governor's mansion, which is it's a kind of a living museum of Russian art history. There are people dressed in period costume, and there's some performances in there as well, so it's really lovely. From there, we're going to be sailing along the Rabinsky Reservoir. This extended waterway system, the Volga-Baltic waterway system, it extends through a series of lakes, rivers, and canals, and it links the Volga River to the Baltic Sea. So it's about 700 miles between the Rabinsky Reservoir to St. Petersburg, and you'll be traveling about 230 miles through 29 locks on the way to the Baltic Sea, which is St. Petersburg. It took about 200 years to complete this, joining the capitals of Moscow and St. Petersburg, but the majority of it was done under the Stalin period, 1930 to 1960. And it's really quite remarkable. But as you can see, the reservoir did flood a number of villages and artifacts. And here you can see the Kalazin bell tower that is submerged and peeking up as we travel along this stretch. But you can see the little dachas, which are the little, now they're like cottages, but they used to be, during the communist era, some of the Russian communal farms. So it's really a beautiful, beautiful experience to travel through here. While you're on board and we're sailing, you might want to try the optional vodka tasting, which I did, and it was great fun. We got to try 6 different kinds of vodka. We learned all the sort of secrets of vodka drinking, and to try some of the local food. So there is a charge for this, but do it because it's so much fun. A lot of really fun traditions that go with drinking Russian vodka. It was really great fun, and it was a fun thing to do in the evening. So check that out while you're on board. And then we travel on to the northern part, and we visit the island of Kiji in the very north part of Lake Onega. This is a working museum where they've moved many of the old wooden structures from around Russia to this particular island, and they've created this sort of working museum village. It has a lot of these date back to the 10th century. Most of them are made out of logs, as you can see, and that church that you see in the distance with the onion domes, there's 22 onion domes, and not a single nail is used on those. Sorry, of course my phone has to ring today. The World UNESCO Heritage Site. There are people living in the during the summer months. It's kind of like I'm trying to think what's out in your area. Well, Kingston Fort probably is maybe one of those, that's a working fort. So it's fantastic. So you'll get a chance here to spend the morning or the afternoon, and you'll get a chance to walk through. You'll see people doing crafts and doing weaving and growing vegetables, and sometimes you might even see a village wedding. It's great fun. And then we have also in Mandrogi. Mandrogi is kind of an artist center. It's not too far from St. Petersburg. A lot of people do come out just for the day, and they use it as a place where they can swim and picnic, and it's a really lovely spot. It's we don't do formal tour here. We give people the chance to go. Each of those little houses has a different artist that is doing different types of crafts, whether it's the lacquerware or the beautiful Matryoshka dolls or the Fabergé eggs. So if you're looking to buy high quality, museum quality type of art, this is the place to do it. And you can see how it's being created. Now we do have 2 optional tours here, one of them which I did, which was really fun, which was a local banya experience, which is a Russian sauna. And I went with 6 other ladies, and we went in, and you strip down, you wrap yourself in a towel, they rub you down with salt and honey, they beat you with birch boughs, you sit in the sauna and you steam, and then they instruct you to run down the pier and jump into the river, which is great fun. But until you only have a towel on and you have to leap in the middle of the day. But you have to kind of throw caution to the wind and go. But it was really fun. But a Russian sauna experience. Or you can also go and do a workshop and learn how to create and paint your own Matryoshka doll or your own nesting doll, which might be a fun experience for those who love this sort of arts and crafts. And here we are going into St. Petersburg. We will be spending 3.5 days here. It's an amazing trip. St. Petersburg is the jewel in the crown. It was built by Peter the Great in the 17th century as his new capital. And here you're looking at the Hermitage, which is one of the largest art galleries in the world. It has over 3 million pieces of art. We will be going in early so that our guests are kind of front of the line before a lot of the crowds. You'll see the crowds and buses. It's crazy. But there are masterpieces in here that I have never seen anywhere else. Some of the Monets, the big Monets that are absolutely spectacular. So you can stay if you like. Once you're in, you can stay. You can't go in and out. But if you don't wish to come back with the tour, you don't have to. We do have a transfer that runs back and forth between the ship from the Hermitage. So you can stay and do whatever you like. In the evening, we do also have a ballet performance. So you'll be able to enjoy a lovely performance of Giselle or Swan Lake. We also have we'll be going up the next day to Catherine's Palace, which was a hunting lodge built by Peter the Great for his wife Catherine, and it was upgraded by Catherine the Great, who came two generations later into this beautiful, beautiful Baroque palace. Now the palace itself was badly damaged during the siege of Leningrad. As the Nazis were leaving, they tried to blow everything up. It's taken years and years of restoration to bring it back, but it is absolutely beautiful with the ornamental gardens, the Baroque architecture and the interior. The Amber Room, for example, is breathtaking. This was built, it was actually lost. The panels were lost during the Second World War. They've never found them. They actually took 7 years to rebuild the tools that they needed to recreate these panels and rebuild it. And it was opened, I think, in 2003. And it is breathtaking. I've been so fortunate to see it. But that you will find. There's also a tour of St. Petersburg, that canal tour that you can see. There's a number of optional tours here that you can enjoy. And finally, on the last day, there are some optionals and some freedom. And here you can go to see Peterhof, which is absolutely fantastic. Peterhof was the summer palace. It was called Versailles by the Sea. It was built in the way of Versailles in Paris. And what is most famous is this beautiful Grand Cascade, which is made up of 3 waterfalls, 64 fountains, 37 statues, and a water system that has remained unchanged since 1721. And it takes water without any pumping station over 12 miles down to the Baltic Sea. And at 12 o'clock at noon, all of the fountains dance to music. It is really beautiful. So if this is an optional tour that I do recommend for those who are interested. But the city of St. Petersburg is truly the jewel in the crown, and you're going to love it. We also have our beautiful ship. Here you can see, and we can enjoy this. You'll have a chance to enjoy this as well. You can see that it's similar to our river ships, but it has a hull because of traveling through those two largest lakes. Finally, I wanted to just remind you what we do include. We include a shore excursion in each port of call. Also, all of your meals. We have beer, wine, and soft drinks included with lunch and dinner. We also have our specialty coffees and teas, bottled water, Wi-Fi. We use first-class hotels for our pre and post if you're staying extra time. Your ship is your hotel throughout this particular trip. The port charges and government fees are all included as well. And just a few travel tips before I wrap up. The currency is the ruble, and your bank. So make sure that you talk with your bank before you go to make sure that they're aware that you're traveling, because they often flag things like this when you're out of the country, particularly in places that are a little bit unusual. In many of the small ports, it's best to have small currency, and you can take it out of the ATM. That's what I do, because you can't take rubles out of the country. In addition to that, bring small packages of Kleenex. I always suggest that. Antibacterial hand wipes, which I think we're all familiar with now, and sanitation gel is also handy. If you're staying in any of the hotels, I do recommend bringing a converter. We do have 10 and 220 on board the ship, but if you're in any of the hotels, you're going to need it. In addition to that, you do need a visa. And I do recommend talking to Kathleen. You can talk to your team, because they will need to do that through a visa company. CIBT is a good option in Eastern Canada. There may be others, but the Russian government issues an invitation letter, which can't be requested until about 90 days prior now. And right now it's very difficult. So we actually are today announcing that we are postponing or canceling our Russian season for this year. So you will be for next year, but it's usually 90 days in advance. And it takes about 2 to 3 weeks to get the visa back. It goes to the Russian government, then comes back, and then you go through the visa process. So I wanted to just say thank you so much for letting me chat. I'm going to wrap this up, and I will. I'll be happy to. If you've got questions, we can discuss those at a later time. But I'm going to stop. Just say thank you. If you'd like to pop back on, Kathleen, just to wrap up.
I do. And thank you so much for putting that together. That was fabulous. I love the personal experiences that you throw in there with a little bit of history and the tidbits. So thank you so much for putting that together.
Well, thank you so much. And I look forward to doing another one in the future. We have lots of places to explore, maybe Southeast Asia. Forward to chatting with you again. And if you clients have got any questions, please reach back to me, and feel free to use some of those links from the website. I'll send those to you as a follow-up. Thanks so much.
Thank you, everybody, and have a great week. Thank you so much for watching this week's cruise chat with Kim from Viking Cruises. It was just fabulous to see some of those itineraries that they have. And it's just gorgeous going from Moscow to St. Petersburg in 13 days. And it is so immersive. It's just incredible. And I really enjoyed learning about it. I hope you did too. Next week, I'm going to be meeting with Marilyn from Riviera Cruises. This will be the first time that I've met with Riviera Cruises, and they are primarily a river cruise line, and they are a fabulous company, and I'm looking forward to learning all about them. So come on back next week and tune in. If you enjoyed what you're seeing here, come on and visit us on Facebook, Plenty of Sunshine Travel on Facebook, as well as on Instagram. And my website is plentyofsunshinetravel.com, and you can go there and send me an email right away. It's just in the bottom footer, there's a link to send an email. It's info@plentyofsunshinetravel.com. Thank you so much for watching this week. We'll see you next week. Goodbye, everybody.